Hi, my name's Davian, and today I'm going to be talking about how wisdom can change your life in really meaningful ways and impact you for the better. So let's jump right into it. Many of us live our lives today based on three things that I think we all have in common, and the first one of these is intelligence. So many of us live by intelligence by listening to smart people and trusting what they say. The second thing that I all think we have in common is we listen to culture, and so that's listening to what the prevailing trends of the time are, or whatever is popular on TikTok, let's say. And the third thing is intuition, so that's doing things based on feeling. So if I feel like doing something, I'm going to do it, or if my heart is pulling me in that direction, or it's a pleasurable activity, I'm going to do it. And so picture these three things as ships on the sea of life, and so we're sailing across the waters using intelligence and culture and our intuition, what we feel, and we're kind of just getting by. But what I want you to think of now is that wisdom is like this sea monster or sea creature, this ancient beast that comes up from the depths and just pushes these ships aside. And even though these ships might look seaworthy, they're not really, because as soon as something more meaningful comes by, they disappear. And that's going to be especially important when you're going through difficult times in life, or maybe difficult times in a relationship or at work or at school, and you're going to need something serious to rely on and not these just silly sort of flaky little things that don't actually help you when you need it. And so that's why we're going to be talking about wisdom and going deeper into what that means. Basically, with this giant sea creature metaphor, what I'm getting at is that we live our lives by going deeper into things and pushing away the nonsense, that I would call it nonsense, that we hear in today's culture, that we even hear from our own hearts sometimes, or that we hear from people who are supposed to lead us but actually mislead us. For instance, the most popular example of this is podcasters or influencers. And so right now they're very kind of dominating the cultural space and saying like, this is what you should be following, this is what you should look at, this is what you should look like. And we often listen to that and think, okay, well, they're very attractive, or they're very smart, or they've clearly got everything together because lots of people follow them, and so I should follow them too. But that's not going to be helpful, and I'll get into that in a minute. With the second example, culture is much the same. So we'll see a trend on TikTok, and how many of us follow trends just because they're trends? It's not actually something that we look at and say, oh yeah, that would be really meaningful to add to my life, or that would really contribute to who I want to be or who I'm becoming. But instead, it's almost just, well, everyone else is doing it, and so it must make sense for me to do it too. And thirdly, one of the most, I think, challenging ones to get through is our own feelings. And so obviously we believe what we believe, otherwise we wouldn't believe it. But we believe that when we want something, it's usually going to be because we think it's the right thing for us, when many times it might actually be the wrong thing for us, or it might be hurtful. And that's where something like wisdom can just come in and be so much more meaningful. And with all of these voices, the culture, the intelligent people, the influencers, our own heart speaking to us, that's where wisdom says just stop and just slow down and just breathe for a minute. And wisdom takes a different path that's going to show you a different way, and a more helpful way, and a more meaningful way to actually, whether it's achieve your goals or become someone better than yourself, or improve, or strengthen your relationships. Basically, wisdom is meant to be different. And wisdom actually comes from the Greek word Sophia. And so that's where we get a term like philosophy. Philo in this case means the love of, and Sophia, so Sophi, would mean wisdom. And so basically what we have is the love of wisdom. I want you to think of a philosopher for a second and what they actually maybe did in their free time, or the surroundings they had, compared to what we have today. If you think of a philosopher, they're probably spending a lot less time doing random things, or maybe chasing their pleasures. Maybe some of them were, but a lot of them were very focused on the ideas that they were thinking about. The way they got wise was they spent a lot of time on one thing, and they'd have more quiet lives. They had enough space to think deeply in one direction. In contrast, we're today flooded with so many different things. Like, think of your phone for a second. You have social media on there. You have text messages from friends. You even have things like mail, the weather. You have all sorts of things that are contributing to noise, and that's just your phone. And if you think about even the TV in your house, or maybe the computer or your laptop, and how many things are trying to compete for your attention, how many things are trying to compete for your time. Our lives today versus the lives of a philosopher, this person who could, quote unquote, love wisdom and find wisdom in the quiet, it's completely different. So I hope you can kind of see what I'm starting to get at, is that philosophers had so much more space to think, and that's how they could find wisdom. Whereas today we're crammed and just flooded with so many things, and it gives us no space to think. And how much is that taking away from our ability to be wise? And before I get into that, I do want to say the hard part about wisdom is that it doesn't always feel good in the moment. And so that's why a lot of people will opt for other things. It is much easier to follow someone who's very intelligent And it is much easier to do something besides denying yourself. Following your feelings comes naturally to all of us. And wisdom, in contrast, is quiet and patient, and it often goes right over our heads and we can miss it if we're not careful. What I'm trying to get at is the world's way of doing things, this busyness and this noise, it's kind of like shouting at us, whereas the voice of wisdom is very quiet. It's almost like a whisper. It's essential. If we want to recognize wisdom's voice in our lives, if we want to find how to be more wise, we can definitely do that, but it's going to start by reducing the noise. If we can't hear wisdom, we'll never be able to take a step toward getting more wise. Going forward in your life, when the average person is just going to follow every whim that comes up, the wise person is actually going to slow down, as I mentioned, and just breathe a little bit and think before they make decisions. And then it's from this clarity that the wise person can respond in a new way. And so let's jump into 3 really practical things that you can do to hear wisdom more in your life. Number 1 is going to be stop watching so many scrolling-based videos. In videos that have a scroll, algorithms really like to show us new and exciting content with each scroll to keep us interested. But that quickly becomes a problem when what they are showing us is incoherent and trying to say 50 different things in a 5-minute span. Whether that's TikTok or Instagram Reels or YouTube, whatever it might be. These videos are typically not long-form content that's going to hold our attention for a longer period of time. Instead, it's going to be 30 seconds of what we find really pleasurable or really exciting or something that we're super passionate about that we really want to just consume. And what happens when you do this is your brain has a really hard time processing everything you're seeing. So you're seeing 50 different genres of something in such a short time, and your brain is kind of thinking, okay, I don't know how to categorize all of these because there's so much coming in and it's really hard for me to distinguish what is what and where to put everything. And so instead you kind of just get frazzled and numbed out a little bit. The problem is you're not actually taking in this information in any meaningful capacity, and it kind of just goes down the drain and you've almost wasted that time a little bit. Not to mention when we have all these different videos, they're often not very peaceful and not very calming. They'll be exciting to get your attention, and remember, wisdom is born in the quiet and in the peace of your life. If you have all these things kind of competing for your attention, yelling at you, shouting at you, these exciting videos, you're actually going to miss a lot of wisdom. And so that's another reason that we want to stop scrolling so much on videos. The number 2 thing that's going to be really helpful for cultivating more wisdom is going to be reading. So reading more is going to be really helpful because reading is only one thing. Unlike scrolling through videos like TikToks or Reels or YouTube Shorts, reading is going to be one topic you have to read through without changing a bunch of times. The book isn't going to transform into a different genre suddenly, probably. And it's going to just be really helpful for, again, quieting your life down, letting your brain just process one thing at a time instead of a million different things. If you take maybe 20 minutes a day and just, instead of just jumping on your phone, scrolling through until you get the next thing going, you could sit down, really be intentional about it, and take that space to just read. The third and final thing that will be really helpful for creating the space that we're talking about is going to be drinking just water. This might be really hard for some people who maybe like coffee, which is okay, or tea, again, which is totally fine, but if you can, try and just zone into drinking water for even just a week or a few weeks, or if you can get into the habit of mostly drinking water, that's great. The reason this is going to be so helpful is because water is, again, just one thing, and so there's no added sugar, added flavors that are going to excite your brain. And I think a lot of people often forget that we do get pleasure from what we eat and drink, not just from what we watch on our phones or what we watch on screens. We also get dopamine from what's going into our bodies. And so I think it is important that we consider, what am I putting into my body? Because that's going to be really important for thinking about if you're stacking up pleasures throughout the day and just kind of constantly sending signals of pleasure to your brain. You're on your phone one moment, and then you're with your friends the next moment, and then you're having good food the next moment, then you're having exciting drinks the next moment. That's all great. Those are all great things. But when it's too much, your brain kind of gets overloaded. And then that's when it comes to the hard decisions where you have to think, okay, I have to do this difficult thing in my life, and my brain has kind of numbed out because there's so much pleasure going on, and I'm just enjoying life so much that I can't actually listen to something like the voice of wisdom to help me make this decision, which is why we also have to consider holistically everything that we're doing. And so that's why I think drinking water can be such an easy and helpful way to simplify your life a little bit, so there's less noise, less things coming in. And so those 3 tips are going to be really helpful for reducing noise in your life. And of course, like I said, the reason we're reducing noise is not just to live a quiet life, but it's because we want to live deeper lives. Obviously, that's not the ending though. There's much more to be said about wisdom, but I just wanted to make this video to help discuss what it might look like to start getting more wisdom. And then possibly in a future video, I can talk about more of these steps to actually get wisdom once you've quieted your life down. If you like this video, you can leave a comment and let me know your feedback. You can let me know what you think. I'm a new channel, and so I don't have any subscribers. I don't have any other videos. This is my first one, and so let me know what you think. I'm going to be releasing 1 video each week on Friday, I think, and so yeah, hopefully I will see you in the next video. Thanks for watching. Bye.